Here is your long, smooth-paced, emotional, 40-minute style story, written in plain paragraphs, no headings, no breaks, just a continuous narrative crafted for YouTube narration. Have you ever heard a story so tragic, so magical, that it feels like it reaches into your heart and refuses to let go until the very last word? If you stay with me till the end of this tale, I promise you'll feel something powerful, something that will remind you why stories matter, and why courage can be found in even the quietest hearts. And if this story touches you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more beautiful stories that light up the night. Once upon a time, in a kingdom where sunrise painted gold across the mountains and twilight shimmered with the whisper of magic, there lived a princess named Alara. She was gentle, kind, and carried a heart that never wished harm on anyone. But kindness alone cannot protect a soul from the cruelties of the world. Alara had been promised to a prince in a faraway kingdom, a marriage meant to unite their lands and bring peace. Though afraid to leave her home, she believed in her destiny and trusted the loyal maid who would travel with her. She didn't know that the maid carried envy in her heart, envy sharp as a blade. On their long journey, the maid watched Alara's grace, her beauty, her soft voice speaking to the horses with love, and something dark grew inside her. One night, while the fire crackled under the cold sky, the maid whispered, "Why should you be the princess? Why not me?" Alara, startled, tried to reassure her, but the maid's jealousy had already taken root. With threats and fear, she forced Alara to switch clothes with her, taking the royal gown and claiming the horse that carried all the princess's treasures. Alara, frightened and alone, had no choice. By dawn, the maid arrived at the prince's palace as the so-called princess, while the real princess walked miles behind her, barefoot, clutching nothing but her fading courage. The prince, Prince Alden, was noble and proud, but he felt something strange about the woman who claimed to be his bride. She spoke rudely, walked without grace, and commanded others with arrogance. Yet he said nothing. After all, who was he to question a foreign princess? Meanwhile, the real Alara was forced into tending geese outside the castle, a task given to the lowest of servants. She was mocked, ignored, forgotten by those who passed by. But Alara did not break. Every morning, she whispered to herself, "A true heart is never lost. My truth will find its way back to me." And she continued to care for the geese with gentleness, finding moments of calm in the softness of their feathers and their warm, trusting eyes, but the magic of the world had not abandoned her. The wind itself seemed to grieve for her, swirling around her whenever she felt weakest, as if whispering, "Hold on." Even the geese sensed the purity of her spirit. They gathered around her protectively, refusing to leave her side. Some nights, Alara cried silently beneath the stars, wondering if her parents missed her or if the prince would ever learn the truth. But even in her sadness, she never allowed bitterness to grow in her heart. She chose hope, even when hope felt like a tiny flame flickering in a storm. The false maid, now disguised as a princess, lived in constant fear. The palace walls echoed with her lies. Whenever the court asked about her homeland or customs, she stumbled, inventing stories that contradicted her previous ones. She grew more desperate each day, terrified that someone might uncover her deception. But still, no one dared question her openly. One afternoon, Prince Alden rode out to the fields, seeking fresh air from the suffocating presence of the new princess. From a distance, he saw the goose girl, Alara, guiding her flock across a meadow as sunlight wrapped around her like a blessing. She moved with a grace he had never seen before, gentle yet strong, her eyes reflecting both sorrow and courage. He felt drawn to her, as though fate itself tugged at his heart. But he did not approach, unsure why he felt such an overwhelming sense of knowing, a strange familiarity that he couldn't explain. Days passed, and Alden found himself riding near the meadow again and again. One day, he gathered the courage to speak to the goose girl. "You carry sadness," he said softly, "yet you walk with dignity. Who are you really?" Alara froze, fear tightening her chest, for she had sworn never to reveal her identity. The false maid had threatened her with death if she dared speak. So Alara bowed her head and said gently, "Just a girl tending geese, my lord." But Alden sensed the truth buried beneath her words, though he didn't press her further. Meanwhile, the wind and the geese became her secret protectors. Whenever the false maid ordered Alara to stay silent, the wind would howl angrily around the palace walls. Some said the wind itself was enchanted, guarding a truth that refused to stay hidden. And one day, the truth indeed began to unravel. Alden overheard two palace servants whispering about how the princess had slapped a young maid for a minor mistake. "She's nothing like the princess described by envoys," one servant said. "They said the real princess is gentle, soft-spoken, with a heart as kind as spring rain." Alden felt something stir inside him, a memory of Alara in the meadow, her quiet grace, her sad but hopeful eyes. That night, he followed Alara as she guided the geese home. When they were alone under the silver moon, he asked again, "Tell me the truth. Please." Alara trembled, torn between fear and the certainty that this man deserved honesty. The wind encircled her once more, as though urging her to speak. With tears filling her eyes, she whispered her story: the betrayal, the theft of her identity, the journey, the maid's cruel threats. Alden listened with growing shock, anger, and compassion. When she finished, he said nothing at first. He simply removed his cloak and wrapped it gently around her shoulders as a sign of respect. "You have suffered more than anyone ever should," he said softly. "But tonight, your truth becomes your strength." The next morning, Alden called for a royal council. The false maid was summoned, and in her panic, she contradicted herself repeatedly. Alden then brought Alara forward, standing beside her so she would not face the room alone. The moment the council saw her, even the oldest nobles recognized her immediately: her elegance, her humility, her true royal spirit. They bowed to her, understanding that she was the rightful princess. The maid was stripped of her false title and punished for her betrayal. And Alara, though shaken, showed mercy. "Let her live," she said quietly. "For hatred blinds, but forgiveness frees." Those words echoed through the hall like a blessing, touching every heart. Alden looked at Alara with admiration deeper than words. He had seen her at her lowest, and now he saw her rise with the grace of a true queen. "Princess Alara," he said, taking her hand, "your courage has rewritten destiny itself. If you will allow it, I would be honored to walk beside you, not because of duty, but because of the strength and beauty of your spirit." Alara felt warmth bloom in her heart. The pain she had endured had not broken her, it had shaped her into someone stronger, someone capable of compassion even in the face of cruelty. And as she stood in the grand hall, surrounded by those who finally saw her truth, she realized that even the darkest chapters of her story had led her to this moment of light. Years later, when storytellers spoke of the Goose Girl, they did not speak of tragedy alone. They spoke of hope. They spoke of resilience. They spoke of a princess who lost everything but refused to lose herself. A princess who rose from heartbreak and walked bravely into a destiny she earned with her courage. And if you're listening to this tale right now, remember this: no matter how unfair life seems, no matter who tries to diminish your worth, your truth, your real, shining truth, will always find its way back to the world. Hold on to it. Protect it. Live it. And if this story touched your heart, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more magical tales that bring light to your night's dot.